It is a snare for a man to devote rashly something as holy, and afterward to reconsider his vows. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we share together more words from Solomon, Proverbs chapter 20, verse 25. It is a snare for a man to devote rashly something as holy, and afterward to reconsider his vows. The situation is a person makes a promise, but he hasn't really considered the implications of that promise, and now he wants to back out of it, but he has already made the promise. And Solomon is saying, this is a trap, this is a snare. There are people who will pressure you to make a promise, but then you are under obligation to them. A common example is to buy things under credit and to borrow money for gambling. The idea of holy, at one level, simply means set apart. The example is all those precious fine crockery that my mother had in the sideboard. She was not impressed when I pulled them all out and stacked them up on my little rickety play table. They were set apart. They weren't the day-to-day use crockery that was in the kitchen. They were things reserved for a particular occasion. Well, that's the general thought of holy, set apart for a particular purpose. And when we have set something apart for a particular purpose, it's effectively a vow. We might make it before God, we might make it before men, we might just make it to ourselves. But having committed ourselves to that action, then we need to follow through. Otherwise, we become one of those people that's kind of yes, yes, no, no. And Jesus said we should speak the truth, and what we speak, we are bound by our word. These days, men too easily change their words. They say they didn't say something that they did say, or they make promises that they have absolutely no intention to keep, just to gain an advantage over somebody else. Well, God knows our words, and God holds us to an account. There's a rather horrific story of this in the time of the Judges. Chapter 11. Jephthah was a mighty man of valour, but he was son of a harlot, Gilead's son. Gilead's wife bore sons, and when his sons grew up, they drove Jephthah out and said to him, "You shall have no inheritance in our father's house, for you are the son of another woman." Then Jephthah fled from his brothers and dwelt in the land of Tob. And worthless men banded together with Jephthah and went out raiding with him. It came to pass after a time that the people of Ammon made war against Israel, and so it was when the people of Ammon made war against Israel that the elders of Gilead went to get Jephthah from the land of Tob. And they said to Jephthah, "Come and be our commander, that we may fight against the people of Ammon." So Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "Did you not hate me, and expel me from my father's house? Why have you come to me now, that when you are in distress?" And the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "That is why we have turned again to you now, that you may go with us and fight against the people of Ammon, and be our head over all the inhabitants of Gilead." So Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "If you take me back home to fight against the people of Ammon, and the Lord delivers them to me, shall I be your head?" And the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "The Lord will be a witness between us, if we do not do according to your words." Then Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and commander over them. And Jephthah spoke all his words before the Lord in Mizpah. Now Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the people of Ammon, saying, "What do you have against me, that you have come up to fight against me in my land?" And the king of the people of Ammon answered the messengers of Jephthah, "Because Israel took away my land when they came up out of Egypt, from the Arnon as far as the Jabbok, and to the Jordan. Now therefore restore those lands peaceably." It had been 300 years since Israel had come into the land, and Ammon hadn't raised this issue at all in that period of time, because in fact Ammon was rewriting history. Israel had not taken any land from Ammon, or from Moab, or from Edom. The land they had taken was from Sihon, king of the Amorites. They asked permission to walk through Sihon's territory, but Sihon attacked them, and they defeated Sihon and took over his land. So Ammon had no claim at all on this territory, and that's the response that Jephthah sent back to Ammon. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah, and he passed through Gilead and Manasseh, and passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from Mizpah of Gilead he advanced towards the people of Ammon. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord and said, "If you will indeed deliver the people of Ammon into my hands, then it will be that whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me, then when I return in peace from the people of Ammon, shall surely be the Lord's, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering." So Jephthah advanced toward the people of Ammon to fight against them, and the Lord delivered them into his hands, and delivered them from Ariel as far as Minnith, 20 cities, and to Abel Kiramim, with a very great slaughter. Thus the people of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel. When Jephthah came to his house at Mizpah, there was his daughter coming out to meet him with timbrels and dancing, and she was his only child. Besides her he had neither son nor daughter. And it came to pass when he saw her that he tore his clothes and said, "Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low. You are among those who trouble me. For I have given my word to the Lord, and I cannot go back on it." So she said to him, "My father, if you have given your word to the Lord, do to me according to what has gone out of your mouth, because the Lord has avenged you of your enemies, the people of Ammon." Then she said to her father, "Let this thing be done for me. Let me alone for 2 months, that I may go and wander in the mountains, and bewail my virginity, my friends and I." So he said, "Go," and he sent her away for 2 months. And she went with her friends and bewailed her virginity on the mountains. And it was so at the end of 2 months that she returned to her father, and he carried out his vow with her which he had vowed. She knew no man. And it became a custom in Israel that the daughters of Israel went 4 days each year to lament the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite. People debate whether Jephthah actually did offer his daughter as a burnt offering, or whether he confined her not to marry, because the concept of a man killing his daughter to keep his word to the Lord is very shocking to us. But the daughters of Israel set up this memorial to Jephthah's daughter, which strongly suggests something pretty serious happened. And Paul doesn't hesitate to name Jephthah in Hebrews 11 as one who by faith subdued kingdoms. But this is a pretty dramatic incidence of our proverb. It is a snare for a man to devote rashly something as holy, and afterward to reconsider his vows. We need to be careful that we do not make rash statements, because the Lord hears, and we are obligated before the Lord to keep our word. Jesus tells us in Matthew 12, "A good man, out of the good treasure of his heart, brings forth good things, and an evil man, out of the evil treasure, brings forth evil things. But I say to you that for every idle word men may speak, they will give an account of it in the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned." Salvation comes when we confess the Lord Jesus Christ and believe in our heart that God raised him from the dead. But our judgment comes upon us when we speak words that we do not keep. And so Paul urges, "Let no corrupt word proceed out of your mouth, but what is good for necessary edification, that it may impart grace to the hearers." He says, "Speak truth in love. For man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." God keeps his word. Don't be ensnared by your words. Your words.